The landscape of modern media is a theatre where attention is the ultimate currency, and the spotlight is a fiercely contested prize that rarely remains still for long. For years, the global public has watched an ongoing spectacle of public relations, personal rebranding, and strategic narrative shifts coming from across the Atlantic, where the dynamics of fame are constantly being rewritten. It is a world where accolades are not just earned through conventional merit, but are frequently manufactured, pursued, and utilized as strategic chess pieces in a much larger game of perception. In this environment, the line between genuine influence and highly curated visibility has become increasingly blurred, leaving commentators and audiences alike to question the true value of the honors bestowed upon modern public figures. When we look at the way global icons and high-profile personalities navigate the media landscape, we see a continuous effort to remain relevant, to shape public discourse, and to control the overarching story that defines their legacy. Every move is calculated, every statement is weighed, and every public appearance is designed to project a specific image to a waiting world. To fully understand how this complex machinery operates, one must look closely at the patterns that emerge when individual achievements are pushed into the spotlight. It is an intricate dance of headlines and imagery, where a single announcement can trigger a chain reaction of media coverage, prompting observers to analyze every underlying motive and hidden meaning. If you find these deep dives into the mechanics of modern media and celebrity strategy intriguing, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an analysis of the cultural shifts defining our world today. The nature of modern accolade distribution has undergone a fundamental transformation, shifting away from objective milestones toward a model that heavily favors star power and the potential for maximum engagement. When major publications and media outlets compile their prestigious lists of the most influential figures in various sectors, the criteria used often spark intense debate. The intersection of global fame, philanthropic effort, and professional achievement creates a complex matrix where it becomes difficult to separate true accomplishment from the results of a highly effective public relations campaign. This phenomenon invites scrutiny, particularly when the honors in question relate to specialized fields where traditional standards of excellence are deeply ingrained. In fields like sports, where achievement is typically measured in goals, victories, titles, and undeniable physical prowess, the inclusion of individuals whose contributions are primarily ceremonial or administrative will always raise eyebrows. It forces us to examine the underlying strategy of the institutions that grant these titles, as they look into their old playbook to garner attention and positive headlines by leveraging names that are guaranteed to generate global conversation. This tactical use of trophies and awards is a well-established method for maintaining high visibility and creating an aura of undisputed success, even when the public can clearly see that the accolades may not have been earned in the traditional sense. The relationship between influential media entities and high-profile figures is often symbiotic, built on a history of mutual benefit and shared promotional goals. This long-standing connection manifests in repeated features, cover stories, and speaking engagements that serve to reinforce the status of both the publication and the subjects they choose to elevate. When an individual is repeatedly placed on a pedestal by an influential media brand, it creates a powerful narrative arc that can overshadow the actual substance of their contributions. Observers of this phenomenon often point to past collaborations as evidence of a pattern, recalling specific instances where visual representation and media positioning seem designed to project a specific hierarchy or dynamic. The imagery presented to the public is rarely accidental. Every detail, from the framing and lighting to the physical positioning of the subjects, is carefully managed to convey a particular message. When these representations feel unnatural or overly staged, they tend to invite parody and skepticism rather than admiration. The public possesses a keen eye for authenticity, and when the gap between the projected image and the perceived reality becomes too wide, the credibility of both the individuals and the publications supporting them is inevitably called into question. This erosion of authority is a gradual process, happening each time an accolade appears to be the result of public relations pursuits rather than genuine merit, leaving audiences to wonder how much true weight these honors still carry in the cultural zeitgeist. Beyond the major print features and annual lists, the strategy of maintaining a powerful media presence extends into the digital realm, where interactive platforms and high-profile conferences provide a stage for continuous self-reinvention. The effort to project an image of expertise and leadership often involves participating in forums where one can speak on entrepreneurship, strategy, and global impact. These appearances are designed to build a resume of serious philanthropic and professional endeavors, yet they often face criticism for lacking tangible substance. Critics argue that sitting in on multiple high-profile conferences and discussing business strategies can feel performative when the underlying contributions to the world of philanthropy are seen as limited. This constant pursuit of validation through various media channels creates a paradox where the drive to appear influential can actually undermine the sincerity of the message. The modern audience is highly sophisticated and quickly recognizes when a platform is being used primarily for image management rather than meaningful dialogue. This ongoing tension between curated perception and practical reality forms the backdrop of a fascinating cultural narrative, one where the struggle for headlines and the desire to remain at the absolute center of public attention drives a continuous cycle of actions and reactions, setting the stage for a deeper look into how these dynamics unfold in real time. The delicate balance of media attention is such that when one individual managed to capture the spotlight, it frequently triggered an immediate, almost instinctive reaction from those within their immediate orbit who were accustomed to commanding the narrative. The sudden influx of positive headlines and rare favorable publicity surrounding a high-profile sports accolade created a distinct shift in the media landscape, basking the recipient in a warm, unaccustomed glow of global approval. For a brief moment, the conversation centered entirely on this specific achievement, highlighting a long-standing commitment to a specialized cause and elevating the individual to a position of prominent visibility. However, this period of singular focus was destined to be short-lived, as the mechanics of modern celebrity public relations rarely allow one story to dominate the airwaves without a counter-move. Almost immediately, within an obscenely short space of time, a massive and highly unexpected digital move was executed, completely shifting the focus of the global conversation and diverting the precious commodity of media attention back toward a different source. This sudden influx of new material, distributed across major social media channels for no apparent reason other than perhaps a vague pronouncement about transitioning into a new season, was viewed by many as a calculated effort to reclaim the headlines and dominate the column inches that had just been conceded to another. The timing of this extensive visual release was so precise that it immediately invited intense scrutiny from cultural observers, who saw it as a classic demonstration of narrative hijacking within a highly competitive public relations environment. The material presented in this unexpected digital release was a stark departure from the highly polished, traditional imagery usually associated with individuals of high status and aristocratic standing, opting instead for an aesthetic that many found disarmingly strange, unedifying, and lacking in traditional dignity. Rather than presenting a cohesive or aspirational portrait, the collection consisted of highly unusual, fragmented compositions that seemed deliberately designed to provoke confusion and intense discussion. Among the images displayed to the global public were odd, tightly cropped shots focusing on clothing choices, specifically a casual denim-on-denim ensemble that became the subject of widespread mockery. The photographic framing was so unconventional that it left commentators questioning the intent behind showing specific close-ups of garments, a choice that many deemed entirely inappropriate for someone who consistently insists on maintaining and using a formal, historic title. This departure from expected standards of public presentation extended to the portrayals of family life, where a distinct and repetitive pattern emerged regarding the visual representation of children. Rather than offering clear, open glimpses into their domestic world, the images featured children whose heads were either photographically obscured, turned completely away from the camera, or framed in a way that critics described as looking strangely detached from the rest of the composition. One specific image featured a young child wearing a noticeably casual, somewhat untidy shirt bearing a prominent pop culture reference, a choice that stood in sharp contrast to the carefully managed, pristine imagery typically put forth by traditional public figures. This deliberate embrace of a relaxed, almost chaotic aesthetic was interpreted by experts as a highly strategic attempt to court a completely different demographic, mimicking the casual digital habits of much younger contemporary pop culture icons who frequently utilize unedited, unexplained content drops to foster a sense of raw accessibility. The inclusion of an older black and white photograph depicting a close embrace between the central couple added another layer of complexity and controversy to the entire collection. This specific image, characterized by its moody, artistic, and heavily styled aesthetic, was clearly intended to project an image of unbreakable unity, deep affection, and an enduring romantic bond that could withstand any amount of external pressure. However, the carefully constructed illusion of a spontaneous, current glimpse into their shared life was quickly shattered when eagle-eyed observers noticed a critical oversight in the presentation of the photograph. The failure to properly crop or obscure the original metadata or timestamp revealed that the image had actually been captured nearly 10 years prior, during the very infancy of their public relationship. This revelation immediately sparked a wave of skepticism and mockery across media platforms, as audiences began to question why a couple so intent on projecting an image of current, thriving harmony would feel compelled to reach deep into their archival vault for a decade-old photograph to prove their contemporary closeness. The discovery led to widespread speculation about the true nature of their current public relations strategy, with critics asking whether the reliance on ancient material indicated a lack of recent, genuine moments of connection that could be shared with the public, or if it simply exposed a desperate need to manufacture a specific emotional narrative at any cost. This reliance on heavily curated, historically distant imagery fundamentally undermined the very message of authenticity that the entire social media release was seemingly designed to convey, transforming what was meant to be a powerful statement of strength into a source of intense debate regarding the sincerity and reality of their public persona. The underlying motivation behind this extensive and puzzling digital release became the subject of intense analysis among media experts, who quickly identified a pattern of behavior rooted in an inability to tolerate any diversion of the spotlight. The theory put forward by seasoned commentators suggested that the moment a spouse or family member begins to receive independent, positive recognition, an overwhelming drive emerges to shift the focus back to the primary individual, ensuring that they remain the absolute center of public attention at all times. This pattern of behavior is not an isolated incident, but has been observed consistently during major international events, where the focus is frequently shifted away from the participants and organizers toward a single, dominant personality. Observers noted that during significant charitable and sporting gatherings, the expectation is always for one individual to remain the undisputed star of the show. And any indication that the spotlight is shifting elsewhere can result in an abrupt departure or a dramatic escalation of public relations activity. Each photograph in the controversial collection appeared to have been carefully selected to counter specific, ongoing criticisms and public perceptions that had been circulating in the media for months. For example, images showing interaction with an older child were seen as a direct, calculated response to accusations that a younger sibling was consistently prioritized in public statements and media coverage. By presenting these specific, highly strategic glimpses into their family life, the objective was to systematically dismantle negative narratives and replace them with a completely different, highly controlled version of reality. Yet, because the content originated from a source widely perceived as deeply manipulative and insincere, the ultimate effect was the exact opposite of what was intended. Instead of projecting genuine warmth, openness, and authenticity, the highly curated carousel of images served only to reinforce the public's perception that every single action, post, and public appearance is part of a calculated effort to paint a specific self-serving picture, entirely devoid of true spontaneity or sincere contribution to the wider world. To fully understand why this endless cycle of public relations maneuvers matters so deeply, one must look beyond the immediate clash of headlines and examine the broader institutional framework that these individuals departed from, as well as the historical context of the honors they continue to collect. The complex reality of public life for those who have stepped away from traditional roles is defined by a continuous struggle to maintain status without the structural backing of an ancient, established institution. In the absence of official state duties, the pursuit of validation frequently shifts toward commercial awards, media lists, and manufactured accolades, creating an alternative ecosystem of prestige. This reliance on external recognition becomes particularly controversial when it intersects with deeply respected traditions, such as military service and veteran advocacy. The creation of specialized athletic events for wounded service members was initially hailed as a profound and noble endeavor, a way to channel the resilience of veterans into a global symbol of recovery and strength. For many years, this cause remained a universally supported initiative, earning widespread praise from all corners of society. Yet as the public profile of its primary patron shifted, the boundary between the cause itself and personal brand management began to blur. This transformation has forced audiences to question whether these platforms are being utilized for genuine, selfless philanthropy or as tools to sustain a high-profile media presence that would otherwise wane in the absence of traditional institutional roles. This tension becomes even more pronounced when looking at the individuals involved and their personal histories, which are marked by a transition from highly structured, duty-bound environments to the hyper-commercialized landscape of global celebrity culture. The contrast between these two worlds is stark, as the former demands privacy, discretion, and a focus on collective service, while the latter rewards maximum visibility, self-promotion, and the continuous generation of personal content. This fundamental shift in lifestyle and values has led to a fascinating biographical trajectory, where an individual who once operated within the strict confines of historic protocol now finds themselves competing for relevance alongside internet stars, pop icons, and corporate influencers. This evolution is not merely a personal choice, but a structural necessity for maintaining a multi-million-dollar media apparatus that relies entirely on public interest to survive. To keep this machinery functioning, a steady stream of narrative material must be fed into the media landscape, leading to the highly curated social media releases, tactical photo drops, and carefully timed public appearances that have become a hallmark of their contemporary strategy. The reliance on past associations and ancient imagery, such as the decade-old photograph unearthed during the recent digital release, highlights a deeper challenge faced by those who seek to remain relevant in a rapidly changing cultural environment. It suggests a reliance on a specific golden era of public interest, an attempt to evoke the initial romance and excitement of their emergence on the global stage to mask the complexities and controversies of their current reality. This tactic of looking backward while trying to project a forward-thinking, authentic modern image creates a profound dissonance that the public and media critics quickly identify. It exposes the inherent difficulty of trying to court a younger, highly skeptical demographic that values genuine transparency over highly managed, strategic public relations campaigns. The effort to mimic the casual, unfiltered digital habits of contemporary youth culture frequently falls flat when executed by individuals whose entire public existence is defined by intense calculation and a fierce desire to control how they are perceived. Furthermore, this ongoing struggle for attention has significant implications for the wider family dynamics and historical legacies involved, creating a widening rift that seems increasingly difficult to bridge. The continuous effort to divert attention away from traditional figures who remain committed to established paths of service is viewed by many as a deliberate rejection of those values, a persistent challenge to the quiet dignity that traditionally characterizes high-profile public service. This rivalry, whether real or perceived, ensures that every action taken by either side is viewed through a lens of intense competition, transforming personal choices into major media events. The international public watching this spectacle unfold across various platforms is left to weigh the value of a legacy built on quiet adherence to duty against one that is constantly fought for in the court of public opinion through headlines, awards, and digital strategy. As this modern saga continues to evolve, the ultimate consequence of this hyper-visible strategy is the gradual erosion of the very prestige these individuals so desperately seek to maintain. Each manufactured accolade and highly orchestrated media drop provides temporary visibility, but it simultaneously invites a deeper level of skepticism that chips away at their long-term credibility. The realization that nothing presented to the public is entirely spontaneous or sincere creates a barrier to genuine connection, leaving audiences amused or critical rather than inspired. In the end, the frantic race for media dominance and the continuous effort to reclaim the spotlight from one another reveals a profound vulnerability, exposing a deep-seated fear of becoming irrelevant in a world that moves on quickly from past spectacles. The story serves as a powerful case study in the mechanics of modern fame, illustrating how the relentless pursuit of attention can ultimately overshadow the true value of any contribution, transforming